We all experience challenging and difficult situations in life. In the face of these complexities, it is not always clear how to respond, what to do, or what to avoid. It's easy to get stuck in these moments and stop moving forward in life. Wholeness with Naomi is a program that explores our experiences with such encounters and provides tools and strategies that can enable anyone facing these hardships to continue walking their path in life. We can't wait to meet you on this journey. Tune in, your life is about to change for the better.
Welcome to our program, Wholeness with Naomi, where we talk about difficult and different situations that you might find yourself in. More importantly, we talk about some of the tools that you can use as you navigate in these difficult and different parts that you may be finding yourself in. Today we have a special guest. We have a lawyer on our program who's going to be sharing with us everything that you need to know about marriage and property rights. Welcome to the program, Melinda.
Thank you very much, Ms. Naomi.
Yes, let's get right into it. Help us understand the rights or what marriage rights are.
Okay. Marriage rights are protected in terms of the Marriages Act.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can get into the type of marriages, then I can assist you with the
Mm-hmm.
rights that accrue to each type of marriage. So the first marriage that we have is the 5.17, previously known as the 5.11. So you find that some couples have what they term the 511, which is now the 5.17. So with the 5.17, we commonly know it as the one partner, one wife, one husband type of marriage.
During chapter 37, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that's the one. And then we have the registered customary law union. This is where you marry before an atete, and then you decide to take that marriage to court, and then you get it registered.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is our traditional marriage.
This is our traditional marriage, but then you take a step further to say, I want to take it to court and then get it registered.
Okay.
Yes.
What does registration give?
Before I get to registration, let me give you this, the third one.
Okay.
The one that is before an atete, but you decide we're going to keep it like that. So the rights that accrue then, registration is important in the sense that your marriage become legally recognized.
Okay.
Should you have disputes, one day your husband passes before an atete, they never liked you from the onset, and they say at inheritance, she was never married to her brother. Then you have your marriage certificate. You can then easily prove that you were married to this person. So registration protects your rights to inherit. It protects your children. It protects even if you go to government offices, say to get pensions, you go to NASA, you've got proof that you were married to this person. Should another person then come and insinuate, I was married to this person, you can go and actually say, no, I was also married to this person. I have a registered marriage union. Instead of you having to prove and call relatives trying to prove that you were married to this person.
Okay.
I hope you understand.
Yes, I do. But I'm also just thinking, there are people that choose to stay together. I think, is that the last one that you mentioned? Cohabiting.
Cohabiting is totally different. It's now recognized, but previously it was not recognized. The cohabiting is now called a civil partnership.
Okay.
Yes. So it's not always the case or the norm that it's going to be recognized, but there are things that the court look at in trying to recognize it. So it's only recognized for purposes of property sharing, for purposes of maybe they were dependents now to that civil partnership. This is the contentious one where others are saying but you find kuti people have been in a relationship for a long time, and they've had children out of that, but this is just a relationship. So now the courts look at a whole lot of things to try and figure out if it was properly a civil partnership for purposes of sharing property.
Okay.
So we look at how long were you together? Did you accrue any properties when you were together? And are there any dependents? We have minors, we have children. Are there any dependents to that marriage? Any issues that arise pertaining to maintenance of children, maintenance of maybe one other party. Maybe there's one party who's incapable of taking care of themselves. We then look at all of that as a wholesome, and then we see that can we consider it a civil partnership? Then it's considered a civil partnership.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot. I think it is a whole section where they describe it. It's section 41 of the New Marriages Act.
So, Melinda, in your earlier sharing, you mentioned that we migrated from chapter 37 to 5.11. Why was that? Why did we migrate?
Okay. So the migration, if you look at our law, what we try to do is we try to marry it to our constitution.
Okay.
Previously, when there was the chapter 37 marriage, you find that children who were born out of wedlock were called bastards. But as we evolve, as the law begins to evolve, such children are now recognized. Initially, the constitution actually used to refer to them as bastards.
The constitution itself?
Yes, itself. Okay. The wording was bastards, the Lancaster House Constitution. So now we're transitioning, we're using more accommodating language. We're trying to remove discrimination. So from there, we then moved to 5.11, trying to accommodate those who are born out of wedlock, trying to accommodate our culture. Because initially, before that, marriages were supposed to be registered. But now we're accommodating our culture. We, even if you're married and you've not registered your marriage, it's still considered a valid union. So the second transition was to try and accommodate unregistered customary law unions. The third transition that we're in now, which is the 5.17, we're trying to now recognize civil partnerships. So it's really a transition of time. Okay. As times are changing and universal law is changing, the constitution is changing, the world initially on its own is changing, how we recognize people, taking away discrimination. So this is how we've come together.
That's like a journey and a shift.
Yes, yes.
But from my understanding, from what you're sharing, even if a child is born out of wedlock,
Yes.
where the parent passes on, for example, let's just take a hypothetical example, it's the father that is passed on, and this is a child that was born out of wedlock, that child is able to inherit what the father left. Is that correct?
Yes, they're able to inherit. In fact, the law will look at all of the children as a wholesome. So if a spouse dies, say the father has died, maybe they've died without a will or with a will. Without a will, you have to register the estate with the Master of High Court. Then they make an announcement in the newspaper to try to get all of the children. Speak to aunts. Are there any children that are still in existence? Are there any children that have not been mentioned here? We try to bring all the children together so that everyone can inherit.
Okay. So this process is also being facilitated by the family.
Yes.
The family also has to know those children that have been born through that particular spouse or father.
Yes.
And then they're brought in.
Yes.
Before everything is shared and distributed.
Before everything is shared and distributed. The law has tried to put all children in one place, not to discriminate whether they've been born out of wedlock. Remember, at the end of the day, we're saying children know nothing. They didn't make this decision. What their parents decide on shouldn't affect what they inherit at the end of the day.
Okay.
Yes.
This is quite interesting. This is really quite interesting. Viewers, let's take a short break to join me in the next segment. Thank you. Welcome back to our program, Wholeness with Naomi. Before we went on a short break, Miss Melinda was sharing with us the rights that children have. Maybe they were born out of wedlock, and in the event that the father passes on, the rights that these children have. I have a follow-up question to that, Miss Melinda. Are DNA tests carried out to actually ascertain if this child belonged to this particular father? If yes, how is it done considering that the father has passed away?
It's not really a prerequisite.
Okay.
It's not a prerequisite. Should then the DNA of the child be challenged, then we can have DNA tests. We've got paternal aunts, we've got paternal uncles. We can always use them in place of the father. Then we can do DNA tests. But it's not really a prerequisite. It's not a hard and fast rule to say, it comes with relatives. The noise always comes with relatives. It comes with the wife who was known, definitely the noise will come. But if you then decide, it's not a hard and fast rule to say we're not going to do it or we are going to do it. It's entirely the decision of the family.
Okay. And this also brings me to, there was another discussion which I carried out with someone outside of this show, where some fathers,
Yes.
this can come from several places. Sometimes it's fear. Kunyara chaiko kuti ndizikanwe kuti I actually had, I fathered children outside of wedlock. What can you say with regards to that, bearing in mind that, death does happen without anyone preparing for it, and it's the children that will be affected?
Yes.
What can you say to that?
I think it's actually something that we need to look into on the basis that we're no longer coming from the back part of it. Going forward, what can we do? Let's have transparency. Even if you're a man and you're scared to say this, maybe it's not conventional where you're coming from. You're coming from a Christian background where we don't accept these things, but these things have actually happened. Find tete, tete, dine mwana andinaye. If anything happens, please remember this child. Sekur pane mwana aripo. Because at the end of the day, it's the child that suffers. Always try to ensure that the child has got proper identification. Go and get birth certificate. It's a right for that child to have proper identification. So get good identification. Ensure if you want to write a will, put it in a will. If you're afraid that people will talk about it now while you're still there, hide it in your will. Or maybe communicate with a legal practitioner. If you're a legal practitioner, go to your legal practitioner, tell them honestly, I have a child out of wedlock and I want this child to be protected. Or you have that other partner that you have and you've been acquiring assets together. Put them in trust for that child. Ensure you protect the safety of the child, the vulnerability of the child after you pass on. Yes.
I think this is something which is also quite profound, viewers. Death does happen. And sometimes also life does happen. You're coming from a place, maybe you father children outside of marriage. And there are so many things that are surrounding. It could be religion, it could be your social status, that you do not want it to be known. But also think about what would work in the best interest of the child. That child is now there. Get proper documentation for that child where your name is there. Inform your relatives as well, such that that child is also known. In the event that something has happened to you, that child is also considered, and they're able also to enjoy something from their parent as well, because they are your child. I'm interested in knowing that, we have now moved into what I would term, both men and women, we go to school, we are well developed, we are well educated. I may come from a place where before marriage I've acquired properties, I'm a woman.
Yes.
I've acquired properties, in my own name, and I'm getting into a place where I'm getting married.
Yes.
How does marriage law deal with that?
Okay, that's a good question. So before you get married, you've acquired property. That property is in your name, it remains yours.
Okay.
When you then get married, you acquire property together, that property then becomes yours together. But if you are in that marriage and you've acquired something on your own, you've not spoken about it, but you've registered it in your name, it remains your property. The type of marriage that we contract in Zimbabwe is called out of community of property. So it's really a decision you make. Do you want to jointly acquire property? Do you want to still acquire property on your own? It's not a rule that you must acquire properties together once you're married. So out of community of property means I have my property, you have your property. It just depends with how now we want to run our journey of our marriage. But outside that, there's no rule that you can't acquire property on your own. You can register your own property. You can have jointly owned property. At the end of it, though, the law then decides what's mine, what's yours. This is before we get married. When we then get married, what's ours? And then now they call it theirs together. Okay. Then at the end, what was mine, what was yours, what did we acquire in marriage, what's mine, what's yours, what did we join together, what's ours together.
Okay. Yes. So it's not automatic that, for example, in the death of a spouse, and I've seen women are usually affected by it, they're expecting that everything would also be transferred to them, or even upon divorce, for example, that everything, or it will be half-half.
Yes.
And in some cases, it doesn't happen like that. Can you just explain in Shona, in our native language, what out of community property really is?
Okay. in our native language. Kana ndichiti out of community of property, I'm saying kuti iwewe pawakanga uri musikana wakazvitengera kamota kako and ukatenga stand yako ukawanawo maybe subbook deal rako ukaita zvinhu zvako, you then regularized ukazota kuti uve nemapepa amatitle deeds ako zvaunenge waona uri musikana zvaunenge waita ndezvako wakazvimirira. Wakanoroorwa futi iwewe, waroorwa nemurume wako, makutenga huku dzenyu mese, matenga mombe muri mese, mavaka imba yenyu muri mese, idecision yenyu kuti imba ndeyenyu mese. Zvatinokurudzira isusu isi kuti matenga imba, mukadzi akangwara anoti iwewe chiva first buyer, inini ndinyorewo kuti second buyer. Murikuona pazvakasiyana. Ukasiya murume ari ega akanonyoresa kuti property ndeyake ega, kana yakatomira iri yake iri ega, ndiko kunonzi out of community of property. Hazvireve kuti nekuti nhasi taroorana nhasi zvako zvazvangu. Izvozvozvo, that's where the misconception is with women. Vakadzi vaneka kufunga kuti kana ndaroorwa ndezvedu tese. Ndo panoda kutonzwisiswa ipapo kuti unless mawirirana kuti ndezvedu tese hazvimbofa zvakaita zvenyu mese. So you need to be woke and say ngatibatanidze, ngatiise mutrust, kana kuti iwewe chinyora kuti first buyer, second buyer, so that panonogadzirwa matitle deeds edu panobuda mazita edu tese. Aparambidzwi patitle deed. Unogona kusarangu rako revana vedu vese vatinara.
That is possible.
That is possible.
Thank you for that clarity. Yes. Thank you for that. I hope it also sheds light as well into the subject that we're talking about. Viewers, let's take a short break. Do join me in the next segment. Thank you. Welcome back to our program, Whole News with Naomi. Today we're talking about an important subject where we are talking about marriage laws and also property rights. Before we went on a short break, we were talking about property that one may have acquired either before or during marriage. There are cases that are happening right now. People are married and the husband would hear, your wife akavaka kumusha kwake, akatovaka 7 rooms kumusha kwake. How does the law deal with that? From what you're saying, it doesn't belong also to the husband. It's the wife's, because the wife is the one that carried out that particular act outside of, even without the consent of the husband. Okay. Is that correct?
Yes. So in situations like that, it depends with, is it divorce or is it death?
Okay.
Yes. At divorce, it also depends, was the marriage registered, was it an unregistered customary law union? So where you find that it's 5.17, then the court will look at what's in the best interests of the children, what's in the best interests of justice itself. You have acquired all of these things against the other party who was unaware, but maybe was also contributing inside the house while you were saving your money to do all of this. So the court would then consider what is known as indirect contribution.
Okay.
Yes. That indirect contribution also goes, say, to unregistered customary law unions, where you are not protected by any piece of legislation when it comes to property sharing. So we look at tacit universal partnership. We look at all of that. Then we look at indirect contribution. I was not working as a woman. I was a mom. I was busy taking care of the children at home. But the law says that you can never put a value to all of those things. I was the night nurse. I was the maid. I was the cleaner.
For you,
I
ironed your clothes, I catered the environment.
Exactly. Yes. I made your house a home. All of that, the court considers it as contribution. So they'll definitely share that property, whether you want it to be shared or not. This is at divorce.
Okay.
Yes. At death, if you were living in a certain house, you are the surviving spouse, you are the wife. You were living in a certain house while your husband died, at the same time that your husband died, maybe 7 days. The matrimonial causes it says 7 days from the time of death. That house automatically becomes yours because it's your matrimonial home.
Okay.
If another woman comes, this house remains yours because it was your matrimonial home.
Okay.
Yes, unless there's children maybe who need anything out of it. But as long as you were staying in this house 7 days prior, it is your house.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to throw in something. I know it's also controversial.
Yes.
Supposedly, we're also talking about sometimes the extramarital relationships within the marriage.
Yes.
There's another spouse. the property was bought, but it was bought in the husband's name. The husband dies. This other woman was staying in that property. Does she have rights to that particular property, or it belongs to the first wife?
Okay, so when you die, there's no this belongs to me, this belongs to that, except for this matrimonial home that I've told you.
Okay.
If she was also living in that house, then it also stays with her. Remember, what we're trying to do is, we're trying to keep you in a position where you are still in the same place had death not happened.
Okay.
We're not trying to displace you and change your life. But if they had acquired other properties, it all goes into what is known as an estate of the late person. Everything that the late person acquired goes into what is known as an estate. We then get an executor who then decides how to share these properties. You understand?
Okay.
But when it comes to matrimonial homes, we're trying to create a safe place for the children, for this woman. We're not trying to change your lives. Had this person not died, how would you have been living?
Okay. This is quite interesting, you know, especially where we are talking about that death and divorce are treated separately. In the event, for example, of divorce, how is, I'm talking about a woman, because many times she's the other one on the other end, and we're talking about a woman, maybe that is a stay-at-home mom, that's doing all the other work that we say maybe may be regarded as non-economical. How does she get help where, for example, you know, everything was registered in the husband's name, but she also was working? How does she get help in the event, for example, of divorce? And she's not the one that initiated the divorce. The husband went away and he says, I want a divorce. How does she get access to such guidance on how she's able to navigate and move forward, bearing in mind that she may not have financial resources to be able to get a lawyer?
So we've got female organizations that actually assist women for free.
Okay.
We've got the Zimbabwe Women Lawyers Association. If you go to them, they will assist you. They'll give you information on how to do it. They will assist you, walk with you, all the steps. When it comes to children, we have Justice for Children's Trust. They will assist you with the entire process. These are non-profit making organizations that are just out there to assist women. They are particular, these ones are particularly for women. And Justice for Children's Trust is particularly for children.
Okay.
Yes.
So what's the first point for someone?
For someone who's encountered death.
Death or divorce and they need help.
They need legal
What's their
assistance.
first point? Do they go to the police? Where do they go as the first point of start?
I think the first point of start that we need to know as women is go and get good legal advice. Where there's these free lawyers, where there's Msasa Project, approach them. They've got free desks where you go. They've got flyers. They'll take you all the steps along the way. You don't really need to approach the police. You find that these are civil matters. Yes, unless there's domestic violence, then we can approach the police. But where there's no domestic violence, the first step is to be properly advised in terms of the law. You then don't want to make an action that you then regret in retrospect. I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have started this. Go and get legal advice. It's free. Go and get it for free. Then you can take informed steps from there.
Okay, this is quite good. Help is available, viewers. Help is available. Look for it within your community and find places where such information is shared. Miss Melinda spoke about Msasa Project. She spoke about NGOs that are around. Look for such in your community. Familiarize yourself with them. Not necessarily when something has happened, but for you to be equipped and for you to know and to know the steps that you may need to take in the event, for example, of even death happening. How do I start? How do I move from here? Most of these things, you know, they have a legal framework to it, and they require you also to be able to know how to be able to process and how to be able to walk through those steps. Any last words for our viewers, Miss Melinda? I know also that this is not the last episode on this subject. We're going to have another episode where we'll touch on different topics surrounding the law. But your last word on this episode, Miss Melinda?
My last words are that let's not be ignorant as women.
Okay.
Let's go and research. Let's ask each other in communities. And also as professional women, let's go and touch our families. Let's go into communities. Let's speak to women. Let's advise them on the law. Shows like these are assisting people. Let's take it a step further and assist everyone. And to the men, let's be transparent. Let's be honest. The law does not protect the sluggard. Let's ensure that we take care of our children. We are transparent about what we have done. Communicate with someone. The law will always be there to protect you as well.
Thank you so much for that. The law is not only safeguarding women's rights, it's also for men. It's also for children. It's for everyone to ensure that we have healthy communities which are protected. Viewers, do join me in the next episode. But in the meantime, continue on wholeness. Thank you.